In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional lands of Sarge First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. Councillor Choba.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add closed section to discuss the legal matter.
Okay, motion on the floor for amended agenda. Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that is carried. Councillor Adams.
Motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that is carried. Okay, we have our RCMP quarterly report. Want to come up to the mic? Very formal, but we are not.
Yes,
So-
I injured my leg, so I brought Ted as my bodyguard tonight, so
Perfect.
apologize about that. So, I also put kind of everything into a little bit of a slideshow, so it's a little bit easier for
Correct.
us to go through, so. I'll just maybe motion you to change the page kind of thing there, so you can go to the first slide there. Yep. So just a little bit of agenda. I'll just go through our detachments, APP goals, our Q2 stats from our OSB branch. Couple recent files or investigations we've had here in the town of Slave Lake specifically. Just some updates for equipment and staffing updates for our detachment, and then finally any questions or answers. Next slide. So just to recap how our APP goals are set, consultation with our stakeholders is the main way to do that, with the mayor here at council, our MD Reven, our MD council, partner agencies such as the Crown Prosecutor's Office, peace officer programs. Slide there. As well as detachment members and some of our support staff who give their views, views of victims, crime trends, and any real-time experience. Final detachment priorities are set by myself. I'll identify the priorities for the upcoming year based on crime trends and the concerns of all stakeholders. And then council or the mayor or the Reeve is presented with the finalized priorities and signs off on them. On the next page. So the first, I guess, tier this year was crime reduction targeting property crime. The first sub part of that tier was hotspot area patrols, which we've done 114 year to date. Proactive industrial area patrols are 86 year to date. Proactive patrols in rural areas is 93 to date, and bait item deployments we're sitting at 1 this year. I will say before we change the slide, these have been historically areas where we've had a property crime, so that's kind of why they were chosen that way. And this is just in addition to our normal daily duties, patrols kind of thing. So you can flip the slide there. The second pillar would be enhanced public confidence and engagement. So town hall meetings, either formal town hall meetings or coffee with the cops. We've done 5 so far year to date. The minimum for Alberta is 2 for the year. So we're well on track for that. Interactions with the community groups such as schools, sporting groups, et cetera. We're at 44 so far year to date. Our fiscal year starts in April. Just as a reminder, media briefs and releases, the plan was to do at least 2 a month. We're already at 18 this year. I've added monthly media detachment summaries just to kind of put out there what kind of files we're working on. Total amount of files, just so the public is fully aware kind of things that we get and we're dealing with. And then the COP program, we want to see the community start that up. They've been awesome. I set up a new liaison officer a couple months ago, Coswell McWilliams. I went to a couple meetings with him, and he said the group's been doing great. They've been providing a lot of useful stuff to us. We've set it up so that he's sending a monthly or bi-weekly at least newsletter to them. I know he was on leave for a little bit, but and I have had positive feedback from at least one COP member on that. So hopefully that will continue in the next quarter there. And the last one was targeting prolific offenders. So the first part was proactive interactions with our prolific offenders. So we've done 70 year to date, and executing warrants on them, we're up to 53 year to date. So I know this might be a little small, try to fit it as best I could on there. I think it's in the other report that I usually send out. So in terms of the stats for Q3, so this will be July, August, September of 2024. The main one's always property crime. It has decreased again for the 5th quarter in a row. The only other notable items on there is a fairly large increase in disturbing the peace calls. Those are like vagrancy kind of calls. Other than that, persons crimes also down, which is kind of nice to see. Usually you see when one's down, the other one's up, but which is also down. So it's nice to see that. You can go to the next slide there. This one might be really hard to read. Just some highlights on it. The guys out in the summer months did a lot of traffic enforcement. So traffic numbers are up significantly. The other items of note, we've had a lot of, for whatever reason, false and abandoned 911 calls. One of my, and you may have seen that in the monthly media releases, like the hundreds sometimes a month. So one of our corporals is digging into that with TELUS. It's a lot of like government build, not this specific building, but like the hospital, some of the businesses in the industrial area. So I don't know the exact reason for that. I think it's more of a TELUS issue, but we've
Like
had
a
a
line
large.
issue,
What's that?
like
sorry?
something with the line, like
Yeah.
a robocall or something like that.
Exactly. So one of the
Good.
corporals was looking into that with TELUS, but it takes up time, right? When we get those calls, sadly, but nothing else super noticeable on there. I know drug files are also up a little bit as well. We've had some good, which I'll get to in the next slide here, some good vehicle stops, which has led to some possession and trafficking charges as well. I'll just go through three recent files we've had here. We had a possession for purposes of trafficking stemming from a vehicle stop. This is just one of our local detachment members just on regular patrol. The members were conducting a joint force operation with some of our partner agencies. A vehicle actively avoided the check stop. However, members were able to locate and pull it over. Members went to arrest the driver on an outstanding warrant and located a sawed-off firearm between their legs. A prohibited magazine and ammo were also in the vehicle. Driver and the passengers were arrested. On a search incidental to arrest, the members located methamphetamine. We seized the vehicle and wrote a search warrant, and we did locate a large quantity of methamphetamine in the vehicle. Trafficking charges were laid, and that matters before the courts. I'll say all three parties had lengthy criminal records. Kind of sad to see that they were out and about in our community with a firearm, but that one's before the courts. Another one, call of a suspicious person in the southwest quadrant of town. I've been calling about suspicious people all year. So this call directly stems from that kind of call. So the members attended the area and learned the person entered a vehicle and then left the area. The members were able to locate the vehicle and conduct a vehicle stop and arrested the driver for driving while prohibited. The members located a prohibited weapon and a large amount of ammunition in the vehicle. Again, this is just stemming from a suspicious person's call. The members also located controlled substances on the person after their arrest. And the reason I mentioned this one, the driver was noted to be bound by a judge's order prohibiting him from possessing any weapons or ammunition, and also has a lengthy criminal record. And that matters still before the courts as well. Next one there. Last one I'll highlight. Our Slave Lake Crime Reduction Unit executed 2 search warrants on 2 separate residences where significant quantities of methamphetamine, cocaine, MDMA, ketamine were seized along with prohibited weapons, ammunition, and a large amount of Canadian currency. Local resident was charged with several trafficking and prohibited weapons offenses. The update is as of November 27th, the person charged was sentenced and received over 4 years in federal prison, which in Canada is pretty good. So that's at least one of our local drug dealers off the streets for hopefully the next 4 years. In terms of a detachment staffing update, we're looking pretty good. My position's filled. Sergeant Schilliker's spot's also filled. Our 2 corporal spots are filled. Our 11 general duty constable spots are actually looking really good. We only do have 1 vacancy. We had a new guy start today, actually. Just a little bit about him. He's from Edmonton, so I think he'll kind of hopefully fit in and blend in and kind of get going quickly. I met him today. He's a really nice young man. And the second one, we're going to get a new cadet in January. So we're actually be flush in January. We are due people to transfer out, however, but that takes time with housing and stuff like that. So we're actually sitting very well compared to all the other spots around us. Our 2-person crew unit is also filled, as well as all our admin staff. Even the next slide. Last one is just some stuff we're doing. We built some partnerships with some of our neighboring detachments, units, and programs, as well as the Lakeshore Police Service. We share a lot of the same clientele, I'll say. So we've been having a lot of intel meetings, which have been successful. Those are run usually by our crime reduction unit. Throughout the summer there, we've had some highest visibility suppression shifts in the town of Slave Lake that had positive results. We executed a lot of outstanding warrants that we had at our detachment. The monthly copy with the cop that I've been doing has got a lot of good feedback, and I've been able to share some information, a lot of local residents, just about detachment happenings and issues directly related to us and any concerns. Most of it have been in the town of Slave Lake. We did one in the MD of Lester Slave Labor in Smith, which was also well attended, but we're all this, I mean, the same residents from Smith come here to shop, so it's a lot of the same issues, but that was also well received. So the next slide. That's it from that. I'll answer any questions. I will note I didn't put on here. We're going to be, Slave Lake is slated to receive our body worn cameras in February. One of the earliest detachments in our, I think in Alberta. There's 7 or 8 of us that are rolling that out, so we're going to be one of the first. I'm going to be reaching out probably to yourself, Mayor, as well as our CIO about some feedback, just to get stakeholder engagement about that process. So don't be shocked if I give you a shout in the next couple of weeks or month kind of thing. But February, we're slated to receive that. I think it'll be extremely beneficial. Randomly, I'll get complaints about a vehicle stop or something, and to have it all on a video camera even is going to be awesome. So that's upcoming. Yeah, I'll answer any questions you guys have.
Counselor Adams, I was waiting.
Sure. Well, I was giving somebody else a chance.
Okay, I just got a general question actually, and
Sure.
it kind of ties into a few things. So with your constables, those are the guys that are typically on the streets all the time, right?
Yeah.
So what are we getting as a, what would be the typical ratio for the time they're doing what we see as police work and time where they're doing the desk police work, where it's all the paperwork and everything? What kind of ratio do you guys deal with on that here? And what is an average for the province, for example, something like that?
I don't know if I could give you an exact time. I know there's a way to pull a stat for something similar to what you're asking for, just from observation and having done the job here in Slave Lake as constable for 6 years. I can say there's a decent amount of paperwork, and sadly, the more work you produce, the more paperwork you're gonna do. I had the most proactive, when I was a constable here, most proactive files of any member, and there was a significant amount of paperwork associated to that. So if you're out, say Friday, Saturday night, you're going to be on the road usually all night, but you're going to make up for that by doing a large chunk here Tuesday, Wednesday night, catching up on some paperwork. There's a lot of admin duties during like a day shift, for instance, like fingerprints or record checks, that kind of thing. A lot of front counter complaints, collisions, that kind of thing that comes in during the week. So the only time you really have to work on paperwork is usually a few hours a night during the week, because you want to be on the road all weekend. So it would change really per day on average. I mean, if you're out 2 of your shifts of your block all day driving around, it's going to take you probably 1 or 2 other shifts to write all the paperwork up, right? So it probably balances out pretty well.
So like 50-50, you're saying then?
Yeah, it could be, but like I said, things can go up and down. A lot of
No,
guys.
I get it's going to change from day to day. I just was a number for a year, like what?
I can say for sure that's what
in my head.
For sure, that's what it was like for me. I'd be out for all night Friday, Saturday. You never see me in the office, just come back to use the washroom. And other than that, do the paperwork usually during the week at night. Similar to what I see with some of our other members. Some of them do a lot more traffic. Other ones maybe in the office a little bit more, writing more like warrants, that kind of thing. So it kind of varies per member.
Is there a way to help alleviate that or not?
Well, if there was more,
Not just the job.
well, if there's more support staff to like just hand stuff off to, I know a lot of the larger centers, you just give them your notes and they basically write up your whole file for you. I've never been in a detachment like that. I've only been in 3 very rural detachments, including this one, where you basically do most of the file yourself. We do have a core liaison officer that does some of the disclosure prep for Crown, but you still have to assemble it. You know, you're the only one that's going to be able to assemble some of the things, but an admin clerk could alleviate a lot of like scanning and burning discs and those kind of admin tasks that it would be better I would much rather love to be on the road myself than having to burn 3 copies of every piece of stuff for a file or scanning 200 pages into something. So that's what takes time. And I would say clerk could definitely help alleviate that.
Any questions?
Sure, I'll keep
Go
going
ahead.
then.
Yeah, keep going.
So then of the 11 officers, you said we were getting a new cadet in and we're getting another one in January?
Yeah, one started today, I met with them today. And another one starting, I think, end of January, right?
Middle to the end of January.
Your middle.
Does that mean we're then losing 2 of our experienced ones out?
Well, another member is tentatively transferring out. Again, she has housing issues, so she still may be in town for 3 to 6 months. So we may have a +1 for a while there. But yeah, when they transfer out, then yeah, we back down 1 position.
So then you're anticipating for us to be fully staffed at 13 for the year?
As of when that new cadet gets here in
That
January,
gets here in January.
we will be up to snuff, yes. And just seeing some of the vacancy rates around, you see, the news and around the province, it's actually very, very good. So we'll take advantage of it when we can.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that was, appreciate the report, appreciate you coming in. We can see the property crime kind of holding steady quarter after quarter after year. I understand crime is cyclical, so it's hard to compare to the last quarter. You kind of have to compare to the last quarter. If you taught me that, you have to compare to the last quarter of last year versus the previous months on that. So appreciate all the report and statistics here and the work in the community. I know we've noticed that the visibility has definitely lots of comments on the visibility kind of being improved or people noticing. So that's definitely getting out there, which is fantastic. And we like to hear that. So I think that's been a really positive improvement. And I love we talked a lot about communication, obviously, and priority setting and all of that stuff. And the media releases are great. I think that's a good way to let us know what you're doing. Otherwise, I mean, short of seeing lights on and a vehicle somewhere, we don't really have a clue as a public and not just as council. So I think it's the media releases and then us getting them out through the town page. I think that's been a good move over the last few months. So happy to see that continue. So no real questions from me, just more commentary. Anything else from council? Okay, well, thanks, guys.
Welcome. Thank you very
Appreciate
much. Appreciate it. I'd stick around, but I have a gender party to go to, so have a good rest of you guys.
That sounds a little more entertaining than where we're at. Councilor Gromnick.
Motion to accept the report as information.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor. And that is carried. Okay, we have no business arising from delegation, so we'll move into reports and new business. Jason, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to add additional advertising assets to the commercial advertising rates bylaw. Little background, administration has tasked the Economic Development Department in collaboration with Community Services to identify additional advertising assets available for purchase by local businesses and organizations. This report proposes new advertising assets in the MRC, as well as advertising options for Community Services Recreation Program guides. These guides are typically sent out quarterly. The report also proposes a new discount structure for digital advertisements based on length of commitment. So advertising rates were set at previous council meetings for existing advertising assets at the MRC, Charity Park, Sinclair Ball Diamonds, and the outdoor and indoor digital signs and screens. The following is a summary of the proposed new advertising assets and associated rates to be added to the commercial advertising rates bylaw. The revised commercial advertising rates bylaw and commercial advertising policy are included in the agenda package for your reference. So additional assets at the MRC, we are proposing, we're calling them end wraps. So essentially it's goal line to goal line as a visual. Think of what currently exists in the field house. So Service Credit Union, that's what we're envisioning as an end wrap. And so that was, Service got their space as part of the original agreement for the field house. So now we're looking to open up both the field house and Arena 2 to end wraps. We're not offering end wraps in Arena 1 simply because we already have quite a few advertising clients in Arena 1. So what we're proposing is an end wrap is goal line to goal line. In Arena 2, the annual rate would be $2,000. In the field house, the annual rate would be $2,500. Please keep in mind these rates do not include GST. We're also proposing adding what we're called a zone wrap. So think of a hockey arena between the goal line and the blue line. So kind of the defensive zone. That's what we're calling a zone wrap. For Arena 2, we're proposing $1,500 as an annual rate. For the field house, we're proposing $1,750. And another asset we're proposing adding to the field house are walking track wall mounts. We do have wall mounts in the existing bylaw, but they cover Arena 1 and Arena 2. So we're proposing a different price for the walking track because it has higher exposure. For the recreation program, I should, before I move on, I should say an existing advertising client at the MRC has expressed interest in the new advertising assets, particularly the end wraps in both Arena 2 and the field house. As per our commercial advertising policy, existing MRC clients have the first right of refusal. If this particular client decides not to purchase the new assets, they will be offered to other existing clients at the MRC first, as per our policy. And if all of our existing clients decline these new advertising assets, they'll be offered to the market for purchase. Before I move on to the program guide, are there any questions on the MRC?
Councillor Gramlich.
I have a question on Arena 2 or a suggestion or, you know how like the majority of the spectators sit at the one end?
Yeah.
Would there be a option for a cheaper price for that end's wrap? Because there is like a few on the side, but you don't see
Yeah,
it.
Arena 2 is a bit of a weird one because when you look at the existing advertisements in Arena 2, they're actually they're on the bleacher side.
Yeah,
So really only the benches are seeing it and then the one viewing area at the end are seeing it. But yeah, we would certainly be open to those.
just thinking you might get more people, like if the pretend Councillor Adams buys that end, I don't want to pay the same price for this end because it's not going to get as much views, just maybe worth doing half price or something.
Yeah,
'cause
for sure.
it doesn't seem, so doesn't seem like it. I just wouldn't buy that one if the other one was sold. So I'm assuming a lot of other people may not as well.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to entertain that. Are you so suggesting half price for?
Just the one when you walk right in the doors, right? Where
Right.
that it might sell easier.
Okay,
Not a deal breaker for me, just a friendly suggestion.
for sure.
So we would need to amend that to the projection tonight here. If
Yeah,
that's how we
everyone
want
wants
to.
to,
Yeah,
like I
that's
said, just a suggestion, not the end of the world if you don't.
So yeah, the friendly amendment to the bylaw would be adding an additional asset to Arena 2 and we would call it
Obstructed view.
yeah, obstructed view zone wrap, sure.
I don't know what else to call it.
So process should be after you're done the questioning, that we would do a motion to amend and then a motion to
Okay.
approve, right? So.
You write that down.
Thanks, Jeff. So we'll call it obstructed view zone wrap. Okay,
For lack of a better term.
For lack of a better
Unless you
term.
Come up with something more creative.
unless I come up with something better, yeah, I'll let you know. Any other questions or comments on the
This
MRC?
portion. Comment wise, I think that this is I'd like to see the additional assets being released so that if there are advertising opportunities, they are in our, in our facilities and that we're making best use of that space. Anywhere else you go, there's advertising
Ever.
everywhere. So I like to see this moving forward.
Okay, great. If there's, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Councillor Adams.
Just a question, are we offering anything as far as contract lengths or are we only offering this for a year? Like, can we say?
It's an annual commitment with, there's been no discussion between community services and myself of offering discounts.
5-year plans?
Yeah, we're
10-year
not,
plans?
we haven't discussed offering discounts for multi-year plans. The only discount scheme, the only discount in the current commercial advertising rates bylaw for the MRC is 10% if you purchase multiple ad
The
spaces.
digital advertising on that one, right?
Well, digital is different.
Yeah, digital, I didn't, I didn't include the 10% MRC one because that's already included in the bylaw. These are all changes in your report. So that discount already exists and it's 10% for any advertiser that purchased multiple spaces. So that could be a combination of multiple rink boards or a rink board in a Walmart. Doesn't matter. As long as it's multiple spaces, they're eligible for that 10% discount. But to answer your question, Councillor Adams, there hasn't been any discussion on offering discounts for multiple year agreements.
So just again, a point of order, if there is an interest to include that, now would be the time, at the end to make a motion, if you'd like to make that amendment or add that provision in. Otherwise, it will require administration to bring a report back again to redo the bylaws. So if there's consensus for that sort of addition, you can put the motion forward, debate it tonight and add it at this time, and then we're moving forward all at the same time.
Continue, Jason, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so if no further comment.
On there, yeah, you can
Yeah.
continue for now. I'm sure we'll have more. We tend to.
Okay.
But
And
continue on.
like the CEO says, I can always bring this report back. So the next set of advertising assets we're proposing to add is to our recreation program guides. These are the program guides that are released by Community Services pretty much on a quarterly basis, with some exceptions like the Christmas program guide. So we're proposing the following fee structure, and these prices are for full color and price per guide or issue. So a quarter page advertisement would be $150. A half page advertisement would be $300, and a full page advertisement would be $500. Open it up to the floor for questions and comments on that particular section. Yes.
How many of them do we usually print per season? Like you're saying, like if there's a fall guide, like how many?
That unfortunately I can't answer for you. That's community services. I know it gets
Okay.
released digitally on our website and
Yeah.
we promote it on social media, but as per physical copies at the MRC, unfortunately, I don't have that answer.
Okay, we do print an amount of them
Yes,
though
we
to distribute.
Okay, I'm just gonna for a second.
I'm just thinking through this, and with the new rule changes that I feel came into effect on October 31st, I gotta excuse myself for a perceived conflict of interest on this one. Sorry, I didn't do it earlier.
That's
Oh.
okay.
Apologize.
No problem. We'll come and get you once we're done discussing.
That was it for my question. I believe I'm thrown off now, so.
I can commit to reaching out to community services and getting an answer for you.
Yes, okay.
Any other comments on the recreation guide?
I think it's very reasonable. I would entertain Councillor Gramlich's suggestion. Is 50% the right number? Like what's?
I don't know. I was just making a suggestion because I just think that the other end would be so much better to buy, right? So the other one should be worth less. I don't know if it's worth 50% less, even less than 50%.
We talking about the NREPs again? or the-
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
We're back at
I
that.
don't know what you.
Yeah, so right now, the note I have now is to offer them up at half price of so we have 1,500 for what we'll call the full view. And then $750 for the partially obstructed.
Yeah, well, I can make a motion to that effect, and we've never sold any of these as this is now. So let's just see how it goes, and we could amend this later or change it if it's worth less, right? It's not.
We can definitely change the bylaws. You have to make a motion to amend what are we amending?
Advertising bylaw.
Yeah, schedule of advertising bylaw
Yeah, so this is Schedule A of the bylaw.
to add in
Add in.
the obstructed view zone wrap for $750.
There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on that? Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried.
Okay, and then the last change in the bylaw is a change to our digital advertising discount scheme. So previously we had our discounts at 10%, 20%, and 30%. Which to me didn't make a whole lot of sense, because why would you purchase an annual commitment at 30% off when you could purchase 2 biannual commitments for essentially 40%?
Sure.
So that just it's just
Clean it
math.
up.
So anyways, that's also up for discussion, and that is Schedule B of the bylaw. And just a note, because this happens time and time again in my department, where I get advertisers asking that the town provide or create the graphic for them. As per our commercial advertising policy, the town of Slave Lake does not provide graphic design support or video editing services to advertisers. I just want to put that in there. So the options in front of council today are adopt the bylaw as presented, adopt the bylaw with revisions, which have already been proposed, or make no changes to the bylaw. Policy implications, I did have to make some minor revisions to the commercial advertising policy. They were very minor in nature, and that is included in your agenda package. Communication strategy, which is obviously very important for selling advertising. So revisions will be made to the current advertising marketing flyer to include the new advertising assets, associated rates, and new discount scheme. Promotion of advertising assets will continue on social media, the Town of Slave Lake website, and will be included in the annual business visitation information package. If council recalls, over this past summer, I visited 101 individual businesses, and the advertising flyer was part of that package. And the revised bylaw will be uploaded to the Town of Slave Lake website. My recommendation to council today is to move and give all 3 readings and approval to bylaw number 21, 2024 commercial advertising rates. And Brady, if you can put up my little document. Before we go to a vote, I know advertising has been a topic of great discussion as we move into budget. So I figured I would just give council a little bit of snapshot of what's been happening in advertising revenue for the last 3 years, which is when I came on in October of 2022. So I've broken them out into the 3 different categories of the MRC, the digital signs, and Charity Park ball diamonds. So you see the summary in front of you. In 2022, the MRC brought in approximately $18,000 worth of advertising revenue, and the budget projected $30,000. In 2023, revenue increased 22.4% to approximately $23,000. The budget projected $60,000 for that year, representing a 66.7% change or increase compared to the previous budget estimate. And in 2024, our MRC advertising revenue is about $26,000. Now, a note on this, our invoicing schedule at the MRC actually ends December 31st of this year. So that 25 or approximately 26,000, that's what's been invoiced. What we've received in accounts receivable to date is approximately 20. So we're still missing about that 5 or 6, which we're going to be chasing down for the rest of the month. And that second number, which is approximately 30,000, that revenue is based potentially based on the new advertising assets coming online and an agreement signed with that existing advertiser who has expressed interest in these assets. So if that client decides to sign on with what they're interested in, that would bring our annual revenue up to approximately 30,000 for the year at the MRC. As you know, the projected revenue for this year in the budget was 98,000, which represents an increase of 48.1% compared to last year's budget. Digital signs in 2022, we brought in about 3,200. Projected revenue was about 6,000. In 2023, it was about 9,500 with a projected revenue of 20,000. That represents about a 97% change. That's mostly attributable to our new digital board coming online. You see that note there. Our new digital signs came online in September of 2023. And then this year was our first full year of the new signs on Main Street active. And right now we're at 14,239. Represents an increase of 40% in revenue year over year. The projected budget was 30,000 this year. I'll just add to that, the vast majority of our existing clients in the digital signs are not for profit. With the Northern Lakes College and the Government of Alberta / Wildfire being our 2 biggest. And the college is very consistent and we are very happy for their business. Charity Park. So as council recalls, the Town of Slave Lake took responsibility for Charity Park advertising in Q2 of this year. This was previously managed by Slave Lake Minor Baseball. So this is all new revenue coming into the town. We sell those fence boards for $500 per sign. And right now we have 12 clients signed on for 6,000 year over year. Or sorry, 6,000 for the year. Any questions on my little summary? It was just information for council.
Appreciate that. Councillor Hughes.
Not so much a question, just a thank you for the summary. It's nice to see us trending in the right direction now after some investment and some time strategizing on this. I was just going to say, in terms of Schedule B, that I appreciate your thought process there from going to 40% with the annual commitment. That definitely makes sense. And in terms of the rec program guide, you feel that those price points there are pretty much in line with other guides locally? Like,
To be honest, we compared with Lakeside Leader.
okay, you compared with Lakeside Leader. Okay, okay. That was kind of the comparison we used. Okay. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Great, thanks,
Is
Jason.
that competition? Sorry, Joe.
I'll move that council gives first reading to bylaw number 21-2024, commercial advertising rates bylaw as amended.
Before I have further discussion, because Counselor Adams did bring up the ask about a multi-year discount. And if we were interested and
Oh, and he left.
yes, I'm okay with this. I like the stable income year over year and I think the price point's right, but I was just putting that out to council if there's any interest. But as I see no one speaking up, then I will stop that discussion and there is a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on that motion? As I see none, call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Councillor Choba.
I'd like to move that council give second reading to bylaw number 21-2024, commercial advertising bylaw rates as amended.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Councillor Hughes.
I move that council give unanimous consent for third reading to bylaw 21-2024 commercial advertising rates bylaw as amended.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Councillor Gramlich.
Move that council gives third reading to bylaw number 21-2024, commercial advertising rates bylaw as amended.
Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you, Jason. Thank you. Roland. Floor is yours.
Good evening, your worship and members of council.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring a person back in.
Excuse us while I interrupt you. Sorry. Going to leave Steve in the back room. We're gonna leave you there for a minute.
Leave me there.
Like we're short a person. Okay, Roland, let's try that again.
All right. So I have before you tonight just an interim operating budget and a capital budget. As we're not completed the finalized budgets for both, we do have to have budgets in place for next year. So I've just attached an operating budget. Within there, there's enough money there to keep the lights on, keep staff paid, and keep the town going while we finalize the actual operating budget. As for capital, I have listed really only projects that are kind of carried forward or we do on an annual basis, with the one exception of the townhouse design development. There's a report coming after this report that will speak more to that, but I've just included that on this interim capital budget until we get everything finalized.
Councillor Adams.
When I skimmed through this, it made sense in what we've done in past years, but there's nothing really out of the ordinary with this. This is standard practice that a municipality carries forward for that quarter, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if we, one year when we get the actual operating budget done, we won't have to have the interim one done at Christmas time.
Hey, is that a shot?
Just kidding. 10 years, it's, we're getting there.
Hey,
We're pretty close, so
pretty close.
we are very ahead of the game.
Closer than previous years. We're very
100%.
close. Councillor Adams.
I make a motion that council approve the interim operating capital budget for 2025.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you, Roland. Kush.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to provide a recommendation to Council for awarding the design services for Fournier Place Town Housing Development. So this subdivision includes several undeveloped lots that are key to expanding housing options in our community. Town administration is currently working on selling these lots to accelerate housing development. Ongoing demand for housing, the town held 18 lots along the west boundary for town housing development and is aiming to begin the design process for the townhouse development to maintain momentum and ensuring strategic planning. A 2025 capital budget is proposed to undertake the needed design work for a proposed amount of $75,000. So we did advertise a request for proposals a few weeks back, seeking proposals from qualified and experienced design consultant to provide conceptual and detailed design services. We got two proposals upon closing. One was from Sync Architecture. They're located in Calgary, proposing us $50,000 to do those two activities plus travel and accommodation related expenses. Then the next one we received was from Fire and Form Architecture Incorporated, located in Grand Prairie, quoting us $62,980 plus travel and accommodation. We did the evaluation based on our typical criteria. And upon evaluation, the Sync architecture out of Calgary, they scored the highest point and they are recommended for award. They're a firm established in 2003, and they also have a lot of experience with townhousing and multi-family type development in various locations in Alberta. They're also proposing a qualified team of sub-consultant to help with structural, mechanical, civil, and electrical scope of work during design stage. Council may choose to proceed with proposed project by awarding the contract to the recommended consultant or do not proceed with the project at the moment. The resources impact would be like, we have already requested capital budget of $75,000 and likely to be funded from capital building reserves as outlined in interim 2025 capital budget. All the proposed construction work will be completed in line with our Fournier Place design guidelines. And our recommendation to council is to award this contract for townhousing development design along west boundary to Sync Architecture Incorporated.
Councillor Adams.
Is there really any difference between finding somebody who's really used to working in the north compared to Calgary? Do they have a lot of projects up this way, or does that really weigh into anything?
I mean, like, it's common. We see contractor coming, depending on if they have an opening, they can bid wherever they're able to go, right? It's just at the end, it comes to pricing, right? I mean, for this kind of work. And Sync has more experience compared to the people in Grand Prairie. They really don't have a lot of experience with multi-family development. Rather, they have experience with a trailer style development. So the scope that we are looking for, I would suggest like Sync is a better suited for this purpose.
And for the purpose of this project, it's primarily design. It's not necessarily construction. It's not construction, right? So, for the most part, it's work that's done within the office, and design is design for the most part. So it's probably, it plays a little lesser value than a potential construction project or something that's unique in regards to the geographical location that we're in. So a further stage may have more applicable.
I was just going to say on that note, do you want to elaborate the need for this plan and everything, like just for the public's sake as well?
Yeah. So, as highlighted in the report here, administration in the town has held back on these lots, exploring some different potential options as it relates to them. But all of the options relate to multifamily dwelling. And so for us to be able to explore those options, whether it's a partnership or whether it's a sale or whether it's a town-run initiative, any of those options requires some initial work to be done to help design or to identify what potentially could go there. And that also feeds into potential costs and design and what that, potential project could cost, which leads us, helps guide us through our options and our analysis of that place. So, this is some of the preliminary work. It leaves as many doors open as possible to the town in terms of how we're going to proceed with those lots. But this is kind of an essential step to explore further. Otherwise, there's not a lot more that administration can do other than hold vacant land, and we're not able to really cost out anything effectively.
Councillor Troba.
Okay, I'm going to move that council awards the design service contract for Fournier Place Townhousing Development along the west boundaries to Sync Architecture Incorporation.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. That is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, the next one is yours.
Sure. Tonight, council, we have before you a number of policies. So the purpose of this report is for council to review and approve revised Town of Slave Lake policies. Currently, our senior leadership team is reviewing Town of Slave Lake policies from each department. This review is to update policies to our current policy template and to ensure policy information is current to respective department processes. Town of Slave Lake policies are not only categorized by department, but they are also categorized as council or administrative policies. Council policies must be approved by council, while administrative policies are approved internally by the chief administrative officer. We are presenting council policies that have been reviewed by our senior leadership team and that are ready for council approval. The list below states policies that have been revised and states the changes of content that have been made. We've also attached a copy of the original policy for reference. You have 4 policies before you this evening. The first policies are disposal policy. Some of the summary of the changes, it's on the new template. We added a definition of immediate family members to section 3.2. Section update to 4.2.1.1. We added a surplus disposal form as an appendix to this document. And we rescinded the previous policy, disposal policy C.D-0.00011 disposal policy will be rescinded with the approval of this policy before you. If you have any questions on that policy, if not, I can proceed to the next. Steve.
Counselor.
All right. I want to have a discussion revolving around the disposal process and how we're adding in the restriction to staff members, to everyone that basically has anything to do with the town. Why, I guess, would be the reason on that. Because my understanding here is that our process for disposal goes through a process of open, because we don't do sales like, hey, Andrew, here, buy this car. We're not going to tell anybody about it. It goes to public. It's put into a bid process, correct?
Yes, to some extent. And it depends on the dollar amount and it depends on the item that we're potentially disposing of. So there is exclusions from, basically it's providing if the process goes to a publicly controlled auction, which larger items typically do, larger piece of equipment, vehicles, those sorts of things. Then as long as it's being held or being conducted by a third party arm, there wouldn't be the requirement, the definition of immediate family wouldn't apply to this. So there wouldn't be nothing preventing a staff member, council member, immediate family of either from bidding at a private auction. So there is a provision that allows for some of that to happen, but not in every instance necessarily is that deemed the method of disposal.
Such as?
Roland, are you able to?
Like you're talking public, because we haven't had a public auction, in the town moves to public auction.
Go to the mic in case people at home want to hear you.
Yeah.
Well, just
Like we haven't had
I wonder where this applies, where we're excluding staff members and their family members and.
I think it's just like to get around the perception that and to protect administration as well, that no one's handing out town assets to town staff, right? So 9 times out of 10 nowadays, all of our stuff goes to like Richie Bros or, that type of thing. That's an auction. We used to, I think pre-COVID, we had a couple in here. We used to have them annually in the town office and like a public auction that we did, and you can come and bid, and like we stopped doing them just because we'd haul all the stuff in and sell 3 things and then throw most of it in the garbage there. So as for the no staff thing, I think it's just protecting staff, administration and council from just any.
Well, I'm more concerned about the place where it comes into play. So if it never comes into play, why do we have the rule? I'd rather stop the process that allows it to happen.
It does come into play when it says we can have sale through a public auction. We could host the public auction. So if you at 4.2.2 methods of disposal, we can point 1 transfer to another department, point 2 sale through.
Right, I understand that, but where do we do that?
Well, a public auction, maybe we haven't yet. The only thing that I know for public auction would be the tax auctions.
Well, like I said before, we stopped doing them regularly just because of we invested so much time. You'd set up this whole room and then one person would show up and buy something for $3.
But it gives them methods 1 to 7. So 1 is a donation or directed by town council, negotiated sale is approved by town council. So if we didn't go to public auction and if something's less, in my mind, if something's $5,000, well, it might not be worth trucking to Ritchie Brothers to, having a sale perhaps. I like the idea of the policy. I think it clearly states the expectation for council, their families and town employees and their families of what you can and can't do. And I think that protects perception wise, even at minimum, it offers a level of protection to the employees. Yes, Councillor Adams.
I disagree with this in a way. I understand where you're coming from for the conflict piece or the transparency, but then I'd just rather state the conflict to be transparent than limit people. We're stopping anyone who's an employee with the town of Slave Lake. So you're saying if we seize or take over a piece of land that we stick up for auction, that no employee can buy that land or have a chance to purchase that land, for example?
They're doing in that specific case, they're ineligible anyways, because the MGA says no.
So then what about when, do we ever seize a trailer on a rented lot? Because then it's an asset, not land.
Again, that particular instance would be, everyone in this room would be forbidden from.
Why?
Like if I'm doing a tax forfeiture, we're all excluded.
That's already written in there.
Yeah, like we don't even have to mention that the MGA is like, that's separate baby on this. I'm talking like this one's more about like, we have the computers, we have a truck, we have
I'll
the
give an
tractor,
example.
we have the
Counselor Grant.
basketball.
Let's say the Christmas department wants to get rid of that Christmas tree and it's out of date. And the Christmas tree is worth $100,000 when you buy it new, but it's miled out and they're telling us it's only worth 5 and it's on its last legs. But really the Christmas department's lying and the tree's still worth 75 grand. But we get to sell it to whoever we want because the Christmas department has said it's done. And then the director of the Christmas department sells it to his brother and they have a Christmas tree with a lot more legs left on it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because
So you're
that's the
saying-
exact example.
So you're saying in our little Christmas tree example, that we're bypassing letting the public know, we're not allowing anyone else to do anything and have an opportunity to purchase it.
Well, that would be a scenario that,
Well, isn't that then against our policy in the first place? And that should be looked at.
but you're disposing it for, oh, it's not worth anything, right? It's on its last legs. I'll see what I could get for that Christmas tree. But we don't really know what the Christmas tree is worth because only the Christmas tree directors told us what it's worth. I want to kill the Christmas department, by the way. They've been nothing but a scandal. No, but that would be a scenario where you don't know what something's worth and you sold it to Johnny down the road, but Johnny got a heck of a deal.
I think when we looked at that and we've been researching into that, we've looked, we went to a variety of multiple towns and stuff like that. And so on this new revision here, I think we've picked the best pieces in a lot of different policies that really covers stuff that was not necessarily lacking, but I think this one just got beefed up a little bit more and we're a little bit more, it's explained a little bit better. The rules
Black and
are
white.
very clear and laid out for everybody. And I think both as the public and administration, we both can have confidence in this, that when the town administration disposes of something, that it's done in a fair and proper manner.
This would also apply to land. So you may recall there's been a recent instance or, where we're selling land and whether there was potential conflict or perceived conflict, this potentially would have alleviated that as well as a potential. Right?
Okay, if we're going down that road, that's why I totally disagree with this and the fact that you are now taking anybody that has anything to do with the town, part of the town, elected in position, whatever, of having any opportunity for anything like that, for growth, investment, whether it's against your business, everything.
Correct.
Of town-owned assets, though.
That's,
that is
yes,
correct.
but it's wrong. Town-owned assets can be quite significant. If we're going down to the land route, we can annex out, we can take land, we can make these subdivisions and go.
Unless it goes to a public auction. So as we sell
Then
our
our
land,
policy on sales needs to change, not so much this. I'm fine with changing this then, but then that policy needs to.
well,
be
the problem with having a black and white, everything goes to public auction to satisfy and remove the immediate family is that it's not a cost-effective method for smaller items necessarily. So your solution would be to say mandate every sort of disposal has to go through Ritchie Brothers, which would then eliminate the need to put any sort of immediate family restrictions on there. But there's an additional cost for that and it's not it wouldn't be effective on all items. So both are achieving the same result. This one gives us more freedom in terms of what the desired result here is.
But if we're putting land up for public sale, let's grab a chunk there. And we're putting it up for sale, you list it, whatever, and you get multiple buyers all bidding and, well, I bid the most, but I'm not supposed to, so I'm out, even though I want it. Like, that doesn't make sense to me that we're limiting hundreds of people
In this
within our
instance,
community.
in this instance that you're talking about, outside of any MGA regulation that says you can't buy it, let's say, we redid this and had Ritchie Bros, there wouldn't be an issue. right? Because what this
But you
is trying to
take
do
that
is if
land
the
as it is right now.
town, if we're, like, if I'm the auctioneer,
Yeah.
right?
That's all.
Then
I'm
you
talking
know, like,
for
we shouldn't be
sale.
doing that, right? Because I'm
But
I'm advising you, we're kind of working together.
I think we're
Third
covered under
party, we
the,
have no
we're
influence.
covered under the MGA anyway. So Steve, if we did remove that, the MGA still prevents it. You
No.
can't, it does.
Not from, no, that's for me making a decision at this table to put it up for sale. That's where it removes when I have an intention to buy it. If you decide that you're putting a lot up for sale, I can go buy it if I had nothing to do with saying, reduce it below market value.
You can't buy
And
that.
it has to be disclosed. So if I sit here at the table and I disclose that the land you're about to bring forward for sale, I have a vested interest in that, and I excuse myself, I'm out. It's
Yeah, but
good.
if
I
you-
was not part of the
If
decision.
you
not
sat
part
in
of the
on
debate.
all this stuff, that's a whole different thing.
Oh, that's a different thing. That's not what I'm talking
But
about.
so when Johnny decide he's selling the Christmas tree for less of a value,
And I walked out in that meeting.
yeah,
But were
And
you
then-
part of the purchase of the Christmas tree?
yeah,
meeting?
it's all
Part of the
convoluted.
purchase has nothing to do with sale of the purchase of the
It
asset.
becomes convoluted. No, it
That's the
doesn't.
procurement item. In this bylaw,
I'm degrading here.
no, I understand what's going on, but I actually, well, at this time I disagree with you, Steve. I don't think that if you sit at this council table or if you are employed by the town, that you should be buying town-owned assets. I just don't think I just don't,
The direction this
I
town
really don't agree with that.
is going and where we're seeing like the development of Fournier Place, for example, any future developments that we're whatever down the road thinking we should do, I would, who in their right mind would work for the town or be on this council to limit that out? I think that's crazy.
Well, no one would if you
Well,
want to
no,
be
I
into the real
wouldn't
estate.
be in this position now. If for some of those things that are coming up that I feel are going to be whatever in the future, why would I sit here? For me to sit here and have a conflict of interest, absolutely 100% should be disclosed. I should not be part of the conversation and I should not have anything to do with it. Absolutely agree. The fact that you limit, like saying, I'm using myself as an example, I have no intention, but anyway. But if I want to purchase that and you're stopping me from it, that is wrong. That is against my rights. And this is just, it's wrong.
I
It's
love it.
all been disclosed.
Question for administration, what other communities have put in a policy like this? You said you'll.
Well, I mean, almost every community has a disposal policy.
Right, but the other ones that had the disposal policy?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't want to get them wrong.
Okay, that's okay.
So, we've looked at Peace River, Whitecourt, Westlock, City of Edmonton, and a variety of others.
And so all had different variations of something along this lines. And again, this is just administration's recommendation. It's for council to debate where as it relates to policy and direction. I mean, from administration standpoint, we think this clears up any sort of potential for conflict. And although it may exclude a specific demographic or a specific group of people from a small amount of town business, we think that the cost of that is far smaller than the potential conflict and public opinion of it.
Councillor Adams.
How many employees do we have? Roughly
I think FTE.
70, 80,
Yeah,
80
no,
full-time
80
employees.
FTE.
80 full-time employees. You take about family size, start including brothers, relations in there, what, 6? So 500, 600 people?
Potentially.
We're kicking out of having any opportunity to invest in Fournier, invest in future development.
Through that mechanism that if the
This
sales are held that way, if the sales are held that way, for sure. If they're, we bring all our grader and our 5 trucks that we're disposing of this year and we send it to the public auction, no problem. Those 500 can all put bids in. And I would encourage them to do so because we can get more money out of the asset. But in terms of anything that's outside of that realm, we're taking the guesswork out. So
I think we need to
it
seriously
still gives us the option to
reevaluate.
say, everything goes through the public auction then. Everything goes through there.
I'm not saying it has, well, what happens if you, like Fournier land and you list it through real estate agency? Not mine, obviously, because that's a whole other discussion. But would that then be arm's length, or is that still considered?
Well, the difference between that sort of relation, at least in my opinion, the difference between that relationship and a public auction relationship is that the public auction, you set the reserve, they set they get the best price that they can, and it either surpasses that reserve or it doesn't. The deal with our relationship for the town with the real estate company is going to be a negotiation based on price or offer received, and there's still going to be a decision that needs to be made at some point in time. So it leaves a lot of subjectivity back in the hands of administration or those that are potentially controlling that decision. It's really not a lot different than someone just walks in with an offer at the front desk. You've just added a level of commission in between. There's no
And
necessary
advertising to public. It's a little
Yeah,
different.
advertising.
Somebody walks in and there's no advertising, you're kind of spinning it around here,
But
but
the
the problem, I think we need to reevaluate our policy around disposal then and the process of disposal of assets. If we're going to go down this path of limiting 500 people within a community of doing any business with the town. Anyways, that's it.
We can definitely take a
Bill,
look.
I will point just, Joe, for reference, if you look at the old policy, section 3.0 actually had very similar wording already in place and in existence, which was approved by council in February 2nd, 1990, as it relates to employees.
Employees of the town who are directly involved in the procedures set out in this policy for the sale of surplus assets and their immediate family and or agents will be excluded from bidding on or acquiring such sales except when goods are being sold at a public auction by contracted auctioneers.
So very similar wording today. We're just expanding the use of council.
Yeah.
34 years ago.
Counselor.
I think,
It's right.
No, but this was the policy that was in existence and in place.
I don't think it's right to buy anything as a counselor. Like, I don't get what the argument would be. I think if you're safeguarding it's black and white. Then if you say you wouldn't come on council because you can't buy something, well, that's a good reason not to come on council. Like, I think this is a great policy. I'm on the whole opposite end of it.
I think we're mixing, not disclosing. I think you're blending those two things. If I'm trying to hide the fact, and I keep saying I, but if I'm trying to hide the fact that I'm purchasing something, absolutely, that's wrong. It's in violation of conflict of interest. It's in violation with the MGA. As far as council goes, as far as the town employee goes, I don't know, that is outside where I'm reading. But to insinuate that anyone is wanting to purchase something hidden from the public is wrong. That's never happened on this council. It's something that's declared, it's written in the MGA, it's already dealt with. If I'm making a decision to lower those below market value, for example, Fournier Place, then I have put myself in a position that I can't do that. But if I have not voted on it and I've declared that I am interested in these properties and I've removed myself from those decisions, to then further say that you cannot participate, I think is incorrect. But anyways, I've said my bit, so.
I like it.
I think it also, well, I like it too. And I believe it clears up a perception issue. And regardless of whether or not you declare a conflict, and then let's say in this scenario, I won't use Steve, I'll use,
Yeah, sure.
pick a different name. Pick a different name.
Christmas department.
We have a Christmas counselor then that goes to declare their interest in purchasing a Christmas tree lot and removes themselves from the decision. So they're removed per the MGA. I still have an issue with perception on a counselor purchasing town assets, regardless of if they've declared their conflict or not. I think I think there's always information that council gets throughout the term. That is, most of it's communicated to the public, but we are obviously the most aware because that's what we're paid to do and that's what we're paid to make decisions on. So I have a hard time thinking that council should be eligible for this. So I'm in support of this policy. Councillor Hughes.
I appreciate the lively debate on this one here and hearing all sides. I just would like to state that for me, I am also in full support of this. I think this needs to be very clear. It needs to be black and white, especially given things that have gone on. I think it needs to be clear for the public. And I think that I would say that if you're going to come and sit at this table as well, you should be here under the understanding that you're not here to better yourself in any way. You're here to serve the community. And so, you know, if that's a weighing factor or this policy is a weighing factor for you in the future, then don't put your name forward because you're not here for the right reason either.
I'll let you hold on 1 second. So we're not at motion point yet. We still have to go through the other ones. Okay. Counselor Adams, do you want to continue?
To say being here for the right reasons, I think that's wrong, and I take offense to that. The fact that I still want to develop the community and I still want to see it get better doesn't mean I shouldn't be able to sit here. The fact that I'm willing to put my money behind something doesn't mean I shouldn't sit here. So to put that in and lump that in, I think is wrong. Now, if I sat here and I did not tell anybody and I did it underhanded, absolutely kick me out. But the fact is, if I'm declaring it up front, it's honest, it's forward, and it should be at least allowed to be debated in there, to be allowed to have an opportunity to hit that. Or we need to look at our disposal policy, in which case anything over X value needs to go to an auction, like land, even if it is only 10 grand on that. Because this here, I think we're limiting a lot of people. You take the people that have been on this council for the last, pick 20 years, I think have all been very strong, community-minded entrepreneurs within the community that have stepped outside their box to try and do better. So to limit that out, I think is wrong. To require disclosure, I think is absolutely right. But the disposal policy, I would like to know, the actual disposal process, or say procedure, would be something I would like to at least have administration evaluate. The part you're saying with the smaller items, and not being allowed to buy, like you're putting photocopiers up for sale or whatever that have been here, Christmas tree department. Yeah, I can see that. I can get behind that with the disclosure, because it is limited in its advertising. It is limited in its exposure to the public. But stuff that is very exposed, I think has different, should have different connotation to it.
So
Counselor Brown.
you're more talking land than items?
Land is a big one that jumps in my mind that we're limiting from, and development. The sale of the Christmas tree, yeah, all right, whatever. Sale of a photocopier, or a ream of paper, that's crinkled, fine. But these ones that have a significant impact on the community, I think should be open to council, should be open to staff, employees, their brothers, their siblings, their builders, their whatever, however you want to play it out there. That's quite a large community that we have that's related.
Land wise, I would be fully not give a hoot if anyone from the staff purchased any land that way, but I'm fundamentally opposed to council buying town land while sitting on council. I think that's horrible, whether you declare it or not. It just, why? Why don't you do it when you're off council or before you were on council? Like, you have to take a break from purchasing a bunch of land from the town. You could buy as much land as you want that's owned by random people, but I think it's a horrible thing to do, from sitting at this table to want to buy.
But then don't you think it's a procedure that should be evaluated where that is going to auction and then this doesn't come into play?
Well, they did evaluate it, and that's what they put it into play. You can't buy
policy. That's not procedure. There's two differences.
Well, you can't buy it right now under this policy. I think the procedure's fine with it. You're sitting here, you can't buy it.
No, the procedure states that if it goes to auction, then you can buy it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So what I'm saying is you need to change the procedure so that it goes to auction.
Yeah, you want everything to go to auctions, right? And then you could go buy it. I don't want you to buy it. I want you to
have the procedure here. So how can we argue this?
Well, that's what you're arguing. You're saying you would like it all to go to auction, so you would have a chance to purchase it.
I would like the procedure reviewed. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we can address that in the management task list portion.
Or you could split it out into two policies if you want. You can exclude land in this policy and then we can have a separate land disposal policy.
No,
Counselor Adams.
I'd rather see us, I'd rather see the procedure, honestly.
Okay.
I know that's kind of outside our realm, right? Please present the procedure to us, but, so I can understand it.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes it's built right into the policy, so the procedures are ingrained in there, and sometimes it's a separate document. You're right, procedures would be traditionally outside of the realm of council's directive, traditionally.
The rest of it, I agree.
So I can move on to the next one if we want.
Yes.
Okay. Unless you,
No, go ahead.
okay. Second policy that's before you tonight is the public service policy. Again, new template. We, it kind of captures all the different departments, this policy. So we added corporate services as that was a departmental change that we made a couple of years ago. No longer references the service request form, updated the appendix, and will be rescinding the old policy, which is attached. Any questions? All right, next one. Check signing policy. This was just a refresh. Again, new template, changed the procedure language to policy language. So we kind of just married things up a little bit and rescinding the old check preparation and approval procedure policy, which was attached.
Counselor Adams.
There's one.
Did this stem from any sort of, our audit or anything like that, that we were put on with our procedures that we had
In
done?
terms of this, the reason for this
Yeah.
review? No.
This is just bringing us to 2024 from
We have-
1989.
Yeah, so administration has a process where we're tracking and looking at all policies and prioritizing those that are A, need changes immediately, or B, have not been reviewed or revisited since 1990. So some of the policies tonight.
Last
So
one was last revised November 1st, 2005.
yeah, so
And
these, all
what
the
I did on
policies that
this
were-
one is, it was this, the one before this check one is, it was more of a procedure. So I just took that and said, no, let's make it a policy. Like it's not a procedure. We'll do the
Save
procedure.
2 signatures, who can sign what?
Yeah. Let's make it a policy, not a procedure. So it's kind of more modernized and actually a policy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, last but not least, the investment policy. This is a new policy, and it's a new template. Roland, you might want to speak on this one.
Yeah, so I just worked on this. We did have one, we didn't have one. We have a combined investment and reserve policy. It didn't really speak to investments, and all of the information on investments in that policy, again, is really outdated. So what I've done here is just modernize the whole investment policy so that it's current and it adheres to the current MGA and all of the regulations that surround town investments.
Counselor Adams.
So just to make that clear for public, we are very restricted in what we can do. It's not like you're going out to a hedge fund.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah, this one, and the policy here will outline exactly what we can and cannot invest in. You know, I mean, the short and sweet is we can pick safe assets. We can't do risky bonds and we can't do, we can't buy the S&P 500 and we're very limited, very restricted. So again, on the other side, we're also limited in the amount of interest you can earn because we can only do safe, low risk, low yield investments.
No Bitcoin. There's no Bitcoin investment.
Yeah, no Bitcoin is allowed. And was the EFT one in here too, or no?
Not for policy?
Yeah.
No, just these four.
Oh,
Just these
okay.
four.
Well, I'll have one more as well.
The EFT policy is coming.
So this is just a sample of the four policies that are before you that are council facing or public facing policies. Administration in the background is, there's probably the same amount or double of administrative policies that we're updating, whether it's human resource policies or, there's a whole bunch. So this is just, what you see tonight is just a portion of the work that leadership team is doing, and we do on a weekly basis. We actually review policies or 2 or 3 policies per department on a weekly basis. So we just collect them and save them for a while.
What's your policy count?
How many policies do we have?
Yeah.
Well, we have a policy on policies.
Yeah.
There's that.
Lots, right? Yeah, that's a lot of work. I appreciate that. It's hard to keep that.
Some get prioritized more than others. Some are, rise to the top as to we need to make some adjustments to this right now to affect a program, to affect a service or to update something like that. But Other than that, it's on a regular sort of course of business for the administration. So you have three options tonight. Accept the updated policies provided in this report, provide amendments for administration to consider and bring back, or to maintain the current policies as they sit. You will have 4 example motions, so you can vote on each policy individually. Should you have any other questions, I'm here for your questions.
Counselor Hughes.
No questions for me. I move to accept the Town of Slave Lake's disposal policy as presented.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Adams.
I'd like to move to accept the Town of Slave Lake's public service policy as presented.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Choba.
Move to accept the Town of Slave Lake's check signing policy as presented.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. That is carried. Counselor Gramlich.
Move to accept the Town of Slave Lake's investment policy as presented.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Adams.
I'd like to make a motion to have administration bring forward our disposal procedure or whatever you have around that. Do you want that in, sorry, I guess I should fit and bring it before council so we can understand that? Yeah, in your task list, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we're gonna have the election bylaw. Ashley.
Yeah, good evening, your worship and members of council. The purpose of tonight's report is for the Town of Slave Lake Council to review and pass the proposed elections bylaw. In preparation for the 2025 general election, administration has worked to prepare an election bylaw that incorporates changes in legislation in the Municipal Governments Act and Local Authorities Election Act. To better understand these changes in legislation, administration has consulted with legal counsel, Brownlee LLP, to ensure regulations are incorporated appropriately within the bylaw. Discussion for tonight. Administration is now presenting an updated election bylaw that has been reviewed by Brownlee with recommendations that align with legislation changes. So from our previous by-election bylaw, that one would be rescinded. So kind of the bigger changes that we're seeing here. So we are not incorporating reiteration of legislation of the Local Authorities Election Act or Municipal Government Act. As this legislation is not governed by the Town of Slave Lake, our law, we should not rewrite legislation as a minor change could hold the Town of Slave Lake to a different standard. For an example, if the MGA said A or B or C and we wrote it A, B, and C, we would be held to a different standard outside the legislation. So we were recommended not to reiterate within the bylaw. This is longer standing and should require less renewal. For example, we're not incorporating specific dates. Legislation within the Local Authorities Election Act already highlights deadlines and calendar deadlines, which we're held to. So this, we can have this long-standing election bylaw without having, October 20th if we had a bylaw election or by-election, I should say. So just allows it to be longer standing. In addition to the bylaw, so legislation is now allowing municipalities to require criminal records for nomination packages. If the Town of Slave Lake would like to require this bylaw would need to be passed before December 31st, 2024. This is really the biggest change. However, this does not disqualify a resident from running. So this is just more of a formality. Brownlee too, when I was discussing with them, there was no exact reasoning. It's just an ability that we're able to do now. So that is the biggest changes. So you can give all 3 readings. Your options are to give all 3 readings to the bylaw with unanimous consent or to not establish an elections bylaw. Our communication strategy, information of the general election will be released on the Town of Slave Lake website, and information will be advertised through local newspaper channels, example, nomination periods, campaign periods. We are recommending that Town of Slave Lake passes this bylaw. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Counselor Gramlich.
I have no questions.
Okay.
I will move to give bylaw 19-2024 first reading.
Any further discussion? Counselor Hughes.
Sorry, you beat me to it. Just to clarify around the criminal record check then. So they could still have a criminal record technically and still
Yes.
run and hold a seat.
Yes, there, if into just like for information purposes, like there's public knowledge, there is leaders in Canada that have criminal records and it does not disqualify them. The only real disqualifiant would be if you had to like an elections charge against you within the past 5 years. That's the only caveat, is
Okay.
if it was an election criminal charge, really.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Counselor Adams.
I move to give bylaw 19-2024 second reading.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. That is carried. Counselor Choba.
I move to give unanimous consent to bylaw number 19-2024 for third read.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. That is carried. Counselor Hughes.
I move to give bylaw number 19-2024 third reading.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Okay.
Okay, next item up, you have your CAO update. So as,
Hold it tight. We're
Oh.
gonna have a 10-minute recess, please, and thank you.
You're just gonna get going.
ready to go.
Muting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back. We are at the CAO update.
Okay, so council, before you have a copy of the CAO update for the month of December 2024. As usual, there's a lot of information here. I'll just hit some of the highlights and answer any questions you may have at the end. For our corporate services department under communication, some of the key projects they've been working on this last month, website redesign, which launched on December 3rd at 1:30. And they're participating in Alberta Emergency Alert Training, so giving us some capacity internally to be able to publish those alerts should we ever need to during time of emergency. Economic development, the rural renewal stream, we approved 2 more additional employers for the town of Slave Lake. No change to our town of High Prairie contract, and our MD of opportunity increased by 1. Moving over to occupational health and safety. Within this last month, we completed our internal health and safety audit was completed with an 87% score achieved. E-compliance training, which is our electronic occupational health and management safety software. So administration training has been booked for December 11th, 16th, and January 7th. All users who require access have been assessed and updated in departmental meetings to be booked in January for incident template adjustments. So we're progressing with that relaunch of that application. Under our IT department for projects, the ERP project at the finance module assessment design stage, website redesign I've spoken about already. The fire hall site has been connected to the main office network, eliminating the need for fire hall staff to have to remote before accessing resources on the town's network. The computer replacement project is about 98% completion, and procurement for the council chamber phase 2 is ongoing in preparation for next year. Finance department, finance continues to work on the 2025-2026 operating and capital budgets. Due to the ongoing postal strike and mail disruption, finance will be sending out a communication to residents about the impacts. Utility invoices, all utility invoices have been mailed out to residents as normal. All persons who signed up to receive a digital copy will have received a copy of their invoice. All accounts with a local PO box will also have received their invoices. The remaining accounts that normally receive their invoices will receive their copy once the mail delivery resumes. In the meantime, a copy of all invoices will be available at the town office. Residents will be encouraged to pick up a copy of their invoice at the town office. In addition, residents can also call the town office and have a copy emailed to them should they wish. Due date changes. So the scheduled due date for the November invoice was slated for December 27th. Due to the office closure, this date's been pushed back to January 3rd, 2025. Tax penalties, the January 1st penalty of 10% on all outstanding taxes will be pushed back to January 3rd. Gas franchise fee advertising. So there's been no change to the town's ATCO franchise fees this year. However, in conversations with ATCO Gas, the town will be advertising its current franchise fee rates in the paper using the template provided by ATCO Gas. ATCO Electric said that we did not require this under their umbrella. This is in results to a change in legislation requiring us to re-advertise our current rate on the gas side. Public Works continues with their winter operations, so plowing priority 1, 2, and 3 roads, grading gravel roads, and ongoing sanding. Planning department, the planning development department is pleased to announce that the vacant development officer role has been successfully filled, enhancing our capacity to serve the community. Work on the land use bylaw and MDP project continues. Green Space Alliance was on site last week to facilitate sessions with the Public Advisory Committee and the Technical Advisory Committee. These collaborative discussions have contributed valuable input to the project. The first draft of the MDP has been completed with revisions noted following stakeholder feedback. The second draft is anticipated by the end of the year, which will provide another opportunity for feedback. A survey for the land use bylaw has been developed to gather insights from residents and other stakeholders on several key topics. The survey will go live shortly and will remain open until January 6, 2025. We encourage everyone to participate and share their perspective. The short-term rental regulations are currently being drafted. To ensure community voices are heard, the department will host a public engagement sessions before implementing these new regulations. So there'll be an additional opportunity for input there. Whoops, sorry. Fire hall calls to date for 2024 is 662. Which is up from 648 the same time last year or 494 the same time in 2022. November 2024 saw completion of the 2025 budget preparations for the town and the MD. Mental health and ICS 200 training has been completed. Presentation to students and members from the Calgary Fire Department on how to pursue career employment was hosted at the Slave Lake training for November. was halted in East Slave Lake. Training for November was airbags and stabilization at all halls. Search and rescue completed search essentials, packing for searches, and cold weather planning. Preparation for the submission of the Wildland Urban Interface Team has begun through the Government of Alberta. 2025 training schedules completed and membership input meetings have begun for the year-end reporting. Under our park community services, facilities and parks, snow removal season has begun also with this department, which means staff have been sanding, salting, shoveling, and blading the pathways and sidewalks that are town responsibility. The speaker system upgrade at the MRC has been completed and orientations done with staff. Messaging has also been passed along to user groups. This new system includes a long overdue replacement of amps, non-working speakers, speakers in the foyer, and the ability to divide the building into zones for music and to be able to make building-wide announcements if required. The department's also coordinating the installation and introduction of Live Barn to the MRC as our newest partnership. This service will mean that games in both arenas will be available online and viewable with the purchase of their app, zero cost to the department, with some initial social media promotion being done by our communications department. Lots of programs I'm not going to go through in terms of family FCSS. And we'll skip right ahead to just about near the end of the recreation and programming. A good news story for us is Clyde Goodswimmer with Treaty 8 Hockey has signed a 2-year contract with the MRC for the Treaty 8 Hockey Tournament. So he's scheduled to meet with the community services for planning once the weather is settled. And some of the upcoming events coming to the community. The pool will be reopening, is projected to reopen December 13th, December 15th, Skate with Santa. December 16th, YES, which I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry, but some sort of youth activity, I think. I'm not exactly sure.
Oh, they're youth nights. They're called yes.
Okay, perfect. And cookie decorating and swimming lessons coming up. Any questions? I'm here for you.
Counselor Adams.
In relation to the fire department, the total calls on the year and the increase over last year and the significant increase over the year before. Is there a reason why we've seen this significant jump? Is it a service area change or anything like that? Or do we know why we continually climb more and more?
I would be able to speculate, but that would probably be a better question to ask the fire chief directly. I know there hasn't been any change in terms of response areas or as it relates to that. We have seen an increase in medical co-response for sure. That's been a thing that's been climbing and climbing and climbing. And it's, unfortunately, it's one of those services that's a push down from when the health system is bogged down with calls, when we, bogs down the ambulance service for patient transfers, or having to sit with the patient potentially at a hospital. Those medical co-response calls start to get pushed down to fire service and to our volunteer. And so they're seeing an increase, which, like I said, is directly related to our health system as it sits currently.
So those co-response calls are basically that we're footing the bill for that.
Absolutely. There is,
and we can't transport, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. There is again, Fire Chief Pavsek would be able to explain a little bit more, but my understanding is there is a bit of training grant that we receive from the province to help offset in some of the costs, some of the medical equipment costs, I believe, potentially. But for the most part, the lion's share of those costs are downloaded to the municipality for that service they provide.
I am very happy that our fire department is trained enough to be able to handle these situations because of the issues we have with ambulance and the challenges we're having with our health system here. But it adds up. And I know we've seen this in the past and it's increasing, it seems, year over year. And this is my concern that we're not adequately, or actually I shouldn't even say adequate, we're not even getting something to help us with this.
That is correct.
Counselor Hughes.
Just a question about the Live Barn app that you referenced in here. Is
Live
that,
Barns. Yeah.
yeah, is that so that they can essentially watch the hockey games, right?
Yeah, essentially it's a third-party company that will install some cameras and monitoring software that would be mounted inside the arenas. People can buy a subscription and watch hockey games or watch their grandchildren play if they happen to live in Edmonton, but they're or from the community or whatever the case may, or whatever the case may be. So it's actually a system that's in a lot of rinks around, a lot of community complexes around Alberta. And so with some of our investment in our infrastructure and as it relates to internet service and stuff that's going into the building, we feel that now's a good time. There's a little bit of a financial revenue sharing that goes on with the town as well for every subscription that's sold as it relates to this facility, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Counselor Hughes.
Motion to accept the CAO's report as presented.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Called question, those in favor. And that is carried. Moving along into management task list. Any questions for what's on here? Counselor Adams did have his addition that was voted on and added, so that will be done. Is there anything else? Counselor Adams.
Do we still have the naming committee one on there, or we're just waiting till we actually physically do the work?
I'm just waiting for the signs to be ordered so that we can complete it.
So that's all that's, okay.
So right now, administration is working with the naming committee. They did their, recommendation. Now it's in administration's hands. We're working with ops to order the signs. And then we'll do a reveal. So that's where that item's at. And then once the signs are up, it will be completed.
Counselor Adams.
Motion to accept as information.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Called question, those in favor. And that is carried. Do we have any questions for administration? As I see none, let's move into committee minutes. And a lot of this is fine. First up is the intermunicipal committee. We met with the MD 124 yesterday. And we took a look and we had a presentation from our fire chief and deputy fire chief looking at our potential fire ladder truck purchase. Currently the MD has a fire ladder truck and the town does. And there was discussions between our two municipalities about moving to one fire truck and combining our resources so that we have a purpose-built ladder truck that meets our regional fire service needs as we operate as one region. So it doesn't make sense for the two fire trucks. So that was part of that. There was a discussion on regional peace officers and discussing advantages and disadvantages of maybe moving to a regional peace officer model. We also took a look at, they presented a report on their Mitsue industrial stakeholder preliminary feedback regarding future development at Mitsue. And we're looking forward to a quarterly stakeholder agreement from that. And that was the highlights to that. Then we'll move to Alberta North Central Alliance. We met on November 26th, and there was a presentation on the Regional Tourism Society. So at that point, there was official participation from Sarge First Nation, Town of Slave Lake, MD 124 in the town of High Prairie. Driftpile and Sucker Creek are waiting until after their respective elections this month. And there was also a presentation for Swan River and Big Lakes, who had requested some more information on moving to the regional tourism. So part of ANTHA's focus, it came about being tourism, mental health and access to services so that all of the participating nations and municipalities were moving forward and advocating for those goals. And that's where the Regional Tourism Society has moved forward. In addition, we had a review of the mental health symposium and related studies, and there'll be plans underway for a mental health symposium next year as well, which was very well attended. Moving on to the Regional Housing Authority. We had our organizational meeting where Brad Pearson was elected as chair and I was reelected as vice chair. Currently, we were looking at potentials for a new build, just opportunities for the housing authority moving forward with regards to seniors and affordable housing. This is in the very preliminary stages. We're looking at various partners and grant opportunities and funding opportunities. So there's exciting times hopefully coming. The demand for seniors housing is incredible. And we're hoping to be able to take some steps forward with that. you take a look, the wait list has gone down slightly. There was 80 total on the wait list to 74. We're seeing the increase in our seniors. Last December, there was 3 or 4 on the wait list, and there were rooms available for the seniors that wanted to move in, but there were several that weren't ready, so they just chose to stay on the wait list. Now we have 16 seniors on the wait list for the seniors housing. And with that, we are on to Tri-Council Health.
Okay, so Tri-Council Health held a meeting last week. So Sandra Melsner with the MDLSR was elected as chair with myself as the co-chair. As of February 2025, there will no longer be AHS. Will be turning over into Primary Care Alberta. No structure or other details have been announced quite yet. Employees with AHS currently will have the option to transfer. If you don't and you just stay with AHS, they will find you a spot. They have changed the zones, the health zones. They're no longer called zones, but they are called corridors. It sounds like we are going to be north from Wabasca up to Slave Lake. And he didn't finish exactly where the boundary was there. I think he was a little not 100% sure on that, but we have quite a large area as well, which isn't surprising. The government is saying that this is designed because of travel patterns with too many people accessing the Edmonton zone. So this could potentially mean that a lot of people from our area will be accessing the Grand Prairie Hospital versus Edmonton. Again, lots of questions and things kind of still up in the air as information is coming out. AHS hospitals will turn into Acute Care Alberta. There are 10 total doctors in Slave Lake at the moment. The 10th is just waiting for his placement from the College of Physicians here. And then we have 3 nurse practitioners currently. Our number for the month of November was sitting at 4,240 monthly visits to the clinic. This includes walk-ins. They have been doing walk-ins in the evenings as well, Tuesday through Thursday, 5 to 9. If they do get another nurse practitioner here, they would look at doing 5 days a week and having that evening time as well. The average wait time has gone down. It was 25 days at one point, and it now sits at 4.35 days average wait time, which is a great positive thing to see. And then we have another stat here, 7,255 patients in total are attached to a provider, while 3,600 of them don't have a primary care provider. And yeah, basically biggest challenges for them continue to be recruitment and finding placements for housing and of course, daycare concerns as well.
Tourism.
Oh, that's me as well. Tourism. So we held our AGM in November. We currently could fill one more board member at large position. We have submitted an events and festivals grants for our Beach Fest event, which is being held this coming August 9th and 10th, 2025. We are currently seeking sponsorship for this event, and we are engaging with groups open to collaboration and have started planning meetings for this. We will continue to work with Destination Canada and explore Edmonton on the Northern Sky Corridor project development. In terms of our tourism regional growth strategy, Mayor Ward did comment on that from the ANSA perspective. We do have formal official commitments from the following: Sawridge First Nation, the town of High Prairie, Big Lakes County, MD of Lesser Slave River, and the town of Slave Lake. We will still continue to pursue some other First Nations and municipalities that are part of the ANCA boundary, and we hope to have commitments from them to join us in the next few months. We have just submitted an NRED grant application this month, which is a matching grant. If received, we plan to use the funds to put towards updating our existing website to feature all of our partners, meaning our municipalities and First Nation partners, to kind of link to them and start with the promotion there and the collaboration. And we also plan to spend dollars towards marketing materials, which would feature our new regional area and all the tourism opportunities that currently exist, and of course the operators themselves as well.
MPC, we approved a permanent approval of the Slave Lake appliance repair after a 6-month home-based business review. We approved an occupying space permit for Chatty Shack, and we approved a occupying space permit for General Retail Major, which was a numbered company. Moving into waste. We had our organizational meeting as well. Brad Pearson was reelected the chair, and I was nominated as vice chair. So we had the organizational part. We also did a preliminary review of budget. Just one of the highlighted items is the commission is looking at mattress issues. Mattresses take up too much airspace and damage equipment. So they're investigating some interesting opportunities for mattresses. One of the options is to fit 100 mattresses in a sea can and ship to a company that employs individuals with disabilities who then tear them down and recycle them. So there are different options the Waste Commission is looking at based on recommendations from the administration. Airport. No update on,
I don't think so.
no update on airport. Sorry, it was on the list, so I missed it. That's okay. Nope, that's fine. Legacy, so you're stuck with me still.
Never mind, I thought of something, just kidding.
Okay, so legacy, we had a meeting yesterday. There were discussions and updates on some of the bathroom repairs in the daycare building. And then discussions on revising policies and procedures moving forward so that roles and responsibilities are clearly identified. And then streamlining some of the booking processes. So in the new year, we'll be focusing on those policies and procedure manual, as well as taking a look at the strategic plan and budget. And protective services.
Okay, so protective services meets quarterly. So here's just a few highlights from the meeting of various agencies. So from Alberta Transportation, La Prairie has taken over highway services. They have over 600 kilometers to do, and this is an 8-year contract with them now. Paving and patching program is now complete. From fire, this past fire season saw below average snowfall, resulting in an early start to the fire season. Forestry did see a 45% reduction of human-caused fires. 3,900 hectares were burnt in our forest area, and we had 19 inches of rain in total. All 155 fires within our area have been extinguished with no carryover fires. There are already dry conditions already with an increase that they are seeing in people doing winter burning. For search and rescue, they currently have 36 active members, and they have submitted a grant for a quad, side-by-side, and some GPS equipment. For health, I basically already covered that. EMS looks after this entire district with 60 full-time positions. High Prairie and Slave Lake are working back towards full capacity though. They're busy every single day. There should be an upcoming open house at the new EMS station sometime late January. More details to come. Alberta Parks is adding electricity out at the Martin River Campground in any spots that didn't have it. They will also have a new booth open, hopefully for May at the same campground. And they made a note that there has been some vandalism in the North Shore day use area. And so those gates there unfortunately will now be closed. Ski trails at Devonshire Beach are groomed and ready to go very shortly. And last update, Alberta sheriffs have issued over 2,000 tickets, and they said they had been lots of trucks off route that they've been stopping, and they also will be starting to do their log haul checks very shortly.
Okay. Councillor Choba.
I want to make a motion to accept the committee updates as information.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Called question, those in favor. And that is carried. Moving forward into State of the Lake, Councillor Choba.
Today is International Human Rights Day, and we are reminded of our collective responsibility to uphold the principles of dignity, equality, and justice for all. These values are the foundations of a strong, inclusive community like ours here in Slave Lake. As we reflect on the progress we've made, let us also acknowledge that there's still a lot of work to be done, whether it's supporting marginalized voices, fostering inclusion, or addressing local challenges with fairness and compassion. Our commitments to human rights must remain steadfast. Together, we can ensure Slave Lake continues to be a community where everyone feels respected, valued, and empowered to thrive. Thank you.
Well, you're gonna make a motion? I guess hold on 2 seconds and then you can make that motion. I was just gonna say, as we gather for our final council meeting of the year, it's a fitting time to reflect on the journey we've shared in 2024. This year brought its share of challenges and has tested our council, but it has also revealed the strength, resilience, and unity that makes Slave Lake such a remarkable community. Together, we've tackled obstacles, celebrated achievements, and laid the groundwork for a future we can all be proud of. I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to the team that makes this work possible. To our town staff, your tireless efforts and unwavering commitment keep our community moving forward each day. From keeping our streets safe to ensuring essential services run smoothly, your contributions are deeply appreciated and make a world of difference. I'd also like to extend my thanks to my colleagues on council. Your passion, hard work, and dedication to serving the people of Slay Lake inspire me, even when we are arguing. The thoughtful discussions, tough decisions, and shared vision for our town are a testament to what we can achieve when we work together. And it's been an honor to serve alongside you this year. As we head into the holiday season, I encourage everyone to take time to reflect, recharge, and celebrate with loved ones. Let's look forward to 2025 with optimism and a renewed commitment to making Slave Lake the best it can be. On behalf of myself, council, and the town of Slave Lake, I wish each of you a joyful and peaceful holiday season and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Councillor Adams.
Motion to go into closed.
Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried.